Welcome to Rogue Bogues, the basketball series. Myself, Mike Procopio. Back to the boring old intros. A lot of good feedback for you, Pro, with your intro, man, I must say. Yeah, man. The people loved it.
Hey, give the people what they want.
Okay, we'll alternate. You'll do it next week.
No. I'm just saying in general, give the people what they want.
We'll alternate. We'll give them what they want. You do it next week, and then I'll do it the week after, and we'll tag team it. But they liked it, you know. And I didn't give Pro any time to prepare. That was a beautiful thing. I just told him, you're doing the intro this week, and he's like, what the fuck? So worked out well. Hey,
anything for the show, brother. Because if we really gave the people what they want, I'd be getting punched in the dick every week.
You can get Chris Paul to do it. All right, let's get started, man. Let's get started. Phoenix, Dallas just wrapped up. We both watched. I watched a bit of that towards the end. I followed this series as much as I can with all the traveling I've been doing with the NBL and stuff. But it was it's 2-2. Dallas have held home court, so we all know a series doesn't start until someone loses home court. First two games were pretty dominant by the Suns in Phoenix. Both games weren't really that close. The second one finished a bit closer scoreline wise, but they weren't really close in my opinion. I don't know what you think, but Dallas just seemed like they weren't really that. They had a couple of chances, maybe late in game two, where if everything went perfect, but for the most part, I thought Phoenix handled that pretty well. It was a Luka show in game three. I mean, he was amazing. He's averaging, around 35. I haven't looked it up since the last game, but he was at 35.5 before game four, so he'd be at 34 because he had 25 tonight on 50, 40, and 70% clips. I feel like both teams have had balanced attacks from different players in different games, and that's a playoff series, Pro, right? Like you're going to have someone step up that's not kind of 0.1, 2, 3 on a scouting report, and that's how you win these series. And for Dallas today, it was Finney-Smith, right? Like offensively, with all due respect, he'd probably be 4th, 5th, 6th on their totem pole. They'd probably just be like, hey, get a hand up on his three, and that's about it. Goes 8 for 12 from three today in game four. Amazing shooting the ball, and we talk about Brunson getting paid, but once his deal's up, I don't know do you know what his deal is, Pro?
No, he just did the extension. He did it about a month ago.
That's right. He did
$55 million.
4 years, right?
I mean, yeah. So I mean, they did a good job with that. They got
a smart move because he would be, he'd be up there in the 80s, I think, if he was a free agent going into the off season. But I think the Mavs were pretty much balanced, real balanced today. I mean, Luka didn't have his best game offensively, but still carried him for the most part. But like I said, Finney-Smith, their bench, Dinwiddie, Kleber's been big for him. He's shooting the piss out of it from three. So I like that. CP3's had 2 stinkers, Pro. You don't often say that about CP3, but game 3, something you don't see very often, more turnovers than assists, 7 turnovers and 4 assists in game 3. And kind of the same today. Not as many turnovers, but he only shot 4 field goals. He had 5 points, 7 assists, and 6 fouls. Fouls out at the start of the fourth quarter. Booker carried them today with 35. He's been pretty solid for the series for the most part. It's been a flopathon series, Pro. I don't know if you've noticed that, but
today was out of fucking control.
Oh man,
today was out of both teams, totally out of fucking control.
And Luka's, he's just a very smart player, and he's doing it a little bit now. He kind of always has a tendency to throw his head back with contact, but he's doing it. CP3 does it every other possession. Booker's doing it, so it's become who can sell the referee the most, and you hate watching it. I saw people talking about it online, and it is shitty. It's a shitty way to play basketball, especially in the playoffs. I hope the referees adjust for Game 5 and let the grown men play. And if you're going to flop, you just fall down, and we're playing on. But it's looking like it's going to go the distance. What we're going to do, Pro, is we're going to reevaluate our picks, and we're going to go whether you stick with your picks or you jump ship. So I had 4-3 Phoenix. You had 4-2 Dallas. I assume we're both going to stick it out. I'm going to stick it out 4-3 Phoenix. What do you got? Give me a break. Give me your stick or jump ship. Are you sticking with your pick? And then give me your rundown of the series so far.
Yeah, 1,000%. I'm sticking with my pick. I think that Dallas is just too close together. They're just close-knit. Bench is pulling for each other. I think everybody knows their role. No one is trying to play out of that role. I think the only thing that has to be solidified, and it's a game-to-game basis, is who's the second best player on the floor. Is it going to be Brunson? Is it going to be Dinwiddie? Is it a collective unit of Dorian Finney-Smith and Maxi Kleber and Bertans making shots? I think they just got to figure out what that combination is going to be. But I think I think Phoenix, Phoenix has all the firepower in the world to win this series for sure. I just think Dallas, the way they're playing, the way they're guarding people. It's hard though. They got to win obviously in Phoenix to do that, but I think Luka right now in the playoffs right now, I don't think there's a player that can impact winning better than him on any team from any player that's in the series than in any series that's alive in the playoffs right now. I think that he gives you a chance to win every night, and what he does is, you try to shut him down, he'll just pick you apart and just hit. He knows where and when to give it to his teammates. I think it's still their series to win. Their series to win for sure.
Yeah, I think the thing is, it hasn't been swinging. It's just been home court dominance, right? So I think both teams have held home court pretty dominantly for the most part. I think it could come down to home court. That's kind of why I had it 4-3. I think I agree with you though. If Dallas are going to win, it has to be 4-2. They have to steal. They have to steal 5 and get 6. If it goes 7, it's probably weighing more towards Phoenix because their fans and their arena is rabid as well. So
7 on the road. Try to win a game 7 on the road is almost impossible. Not impossible, but almost impossible. Yeah.
Yeah, unless you're the Golden State Warriors and you're up 3-1 with Bogues in the team. Exactly. Yeah. But no, this has been a great series. This is what playoff basketball is. The adjustments. I noticed. We'll touch on it in a stat later. But the Phoenix Suns were picking on Luka Doncic in the first couple of games. Even in the last couple, they just didn't get it done in the last couple. But putting him in a lot of actions. Dallas have now started picking on Cam Johnson whenever he's in the game, getting him involved in a lot of the plays. Figured out he can't stay in front of anybody. So for the fans watching, as these series evolve into 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you're going to see different adjustments. And like we said, it's going to take a guy that is averaging 10 to make 20 to get your team a win sometimes. And they're also going to pick on guys. You can't hide in the playoffs. There's not a feet set shooter that just doesn't move, that stands in the corner that you can hide your poor defender on, because now they're just putting them in the pick and roll. They're going to get you on the ball somehow. And most teams switch 1 through 5 for the most part, especially in crunch time, which is kind of silly in a way, Pro, because if you do have a bad defender out there, the 1 through 5 kind of kills you because they know you're just going to easy switch it and then they can go one-on-one against your poor defender. In those circumstances, I would sometimes think about blitzing and just getting the ball out of that star player's hands like a Luka Doncic, but Phoenix just stubbornly wouldn't do it. They continue to 1 through 5 switch and let Luka go to work and create and get his assists and get his foot in the paint. So interesting series. Looking forward to that one, but we'll see how that goes. All right, Milwaukee and Boston. Currently, Milwaukee are up 2-1. Giannis. I mean, I kind of said at the start of this series, even though I picked Boston, that Giannis will get him 2 games at least just on his own back, and he already has. He's a fucking monster. Like what he's done in this series so far, he has 42-12 and 8 in game 3 in a very important game for them. Fantastic series so far for him. Loving the way he's playing. They just don't have an answer for him. They try to go to Grant Williams a little bit and have him be physical, but he's just too small. He's physical, but he's too small, and Giannis can just move laterally, and he's Euro, and now his touch is pretty good. He's shooting the free throws a little bit better in the last game. Tatum, I think, is not having a great series, even though he's averaging 20 a night, but 35% from the field and 36 from 3 with 3.3 turnovers a game. That's not going to get it done, Pro. He's there. Brown's kind of holding steady. He's doing his job, but I think Tatum's going to lift a little bit offensively for him. Drew Holiday has increased his aggressiveness offensively, which we don't see that often from him. Not great clips, but he's noticeably, I think they had a conversation with him with Middleton out. We can't have you shooting 6 or 7 field goals for the game. And he shot 30 of them last game, and he's going to have to continue to do that. So he's ratcheted up the aggressiveness. He's 23, 7, and 5 with 3 steals in the last game, which was really good for them. But we're both 4-2 for Boston. Stick or jump ship. Oh, man, I think I'm going to jump ship. I'm going to say it's going 7. And I'm going to flip. I'm going to go Milwaukee. I think Boston's just, unless they make a massive adjustment defensively, they kind of seem like that Boston a little bit in this series. That was November, December, to an extent. Not to those extremes, but I felt like that a little bit in game 3 where it was like, even though it was a close game, they made some great plays. They still did a lot of silly things. So I'm gonna jump ship and go 4-3 Milwaukee, just based on the percentages of them getting this home game, and it is going to be 2. Even if it goes 2-2 for Boston, it obviously goes in their favor for 7, but I'm going to jump on the Giannis's shoulders and go, 4-3. Milwaukee.
I'm going to stay with it. I think Boston, even last game, like you could see it slipping from Milwaukee's hands a little bit. And then they just sort of obviously got a little bit lucky with some missed calls and things at the end. Look, Giannis has been great, but the one thing Bogues has been doing, he's been falling in love with that 3. And unlike last year in the playoffs, late in the playoffs, he's not making them. He's shooting 16% from the series. He's only shooting about 63 from the line in the series. His shot he's definitely impacted a little bit. I'm not sure if it's just a little bit of a jinx in the short term. And if it is, then they'll have an advantage. But he's, look, when he puts his head down, and first of all, doesn't everybody fucking know that he's going to put his head down, drive you, and then spin you back? Has he not done that enough where like one guy might want to fucking raise his hand like, wait a minute, when he drives, he might be spinning. And the guy is phenomenal. That is his signature move. That fucking drive, spin, dunk on you or up and under.
But it's hard, pro, man. Like I've guarded him.
Yeah.
I've been switched on to him before, years ago when I was still moving pretty well when I was at Golden State. He's strong as fuck. Like people don't realize because of his frame's kind of skinny and wiry. He's strong, dude. Like he's jumped from like his first couple of years to where we see him now, weight room wise, was immense. Like it's so underrated. There was those photos back in I think year 2 or 3 where he just stayed in Milwaukee the whole summer and looked like he just ate dumbbells.
50 pounds.
Yeah, but the problem is if you're not chest to chest with him on his initial drive, right? And you're half out of position, he knows he's going to get his shoulder into your shoulder, and then it's not a charge because you're still moving and you're not square, right? So if you're not straight up with him, it kills you. And then he's just so good with the Euro, number one, and then he's got the spin. So it's like it's coming, but stopping it's just a problem because if you don't cut him off completely, he's hitting you in the chest. You're going to be moving 2 or 3 feet, and he's like almost dunking it from the dots. And then if you do meet him, then he's just spinning off you or Euroing. So he's a tough guard. You know exactly what he's going to do, but he's one of those guys athletically that it's what the fuck do you do? And
you got to shrink the floor from both elbows and at least like try to maybe shrink that driving lane. He will still try to go at you. And I look, easier fucking said than done. And who am I to try to X and O anything? But like, that's the only thing you can do, Bogues. Like, you can't just one-on-one cover him with like space to his left and right to be able to drive and be able to change direction without active hands on the left and right elbow trying to at least, like stop him from driving it. But the ball is eventually going to find his hands. But I would rather someone without Middleton on the floor. I would rather I'd rather bet on like Connaughton not having a little bit of an off night or Allen or Wesley Matthews rather than like just having him put his head down and just ISO up top and then kill you. But hey, look, like you just said about 4 minutes ago, you can't hide. Like they will find a matchup that he will destroy you on, which is about 99.9% of the league anyway. But it's going to be a war. It's going to be I still think it's going to be a great series. And I'm just waiting for somebody to get punched in the mouth in either this series or that Dallas series we just spoke about somebody winning the road, because obviously home court's been good to both teams.
You look at the last game though between Milwaukee and Boston, and that was, if you look at the stats, you'd think Boston win this game. Milwaukee were 9 for 34 from 3. They were 26% or 26.5%. So that's the kind of thing you're talking about. Is you're going to live and die by those guys making threes rather than Giannis getting in the paint every time. But I think Boston somewhat did a pretty good job of contesting those threes. But you look at the stat sheet and you're like, how do they lose this game? But you look at the other end, then Boston were only 27%. They were 9 for 33. They were horrendous from the field. They were even worse from the field, 36.8%. They got to the line. So if you picked up this stat sheet and read it, you're like, how the hell did Boston lose this game? But they turned the ball over a fair bit at key stages late, but still only 12 turnovers. And you just look at Milwaukee just grinded it out. They've been there before. Milwaukee won the rebound battle, and they got up 12 more field goals than Boston, even though Boston, go to the free throw line 34 times. How do you lose? Like, I'm looking at this stat sheet and I'm scratching my head like, geez, what? And that's the Giannis effect. Like he'll find a way to will his team to victory. And 42, 12, and 8 on 16 from 30 from the field, and okay, 1 of 6 from 3, but then 9 for 12 from the line, which is, you said numerous times, is actually more important than his 3 because he can continue to be aggressive. Brook Lopez was big for him with just a solid 13 and 10, but, you know, their 3-point clips were bad. They didn't really get to the line as much. Everything else was even, so I scratched my head as to how they lose that one, but I think Boston will adjust. But I'm just going to ride Giannis's coattails. I just think he's having a hell of a year again and just quietly going about his business. Miami, Philly, about to kick off, or it's just kicked off. Where are we at? 20 apiece, 3 minutes left in the first. We'll touch back. I doubt it'll finish by the end of this pod, but we'll see. It is 2-1 for Miami pre this game. Embiid came back for game 3, so we kind of called it that he'd be back, you know, we thought mid-series, which is pretty close. He's got his mask on and he's out there, and he didn't have great numbers in game 3, but just his presence out there, he creates such a difference. He had 18 and 11, still great numbers for most people, but Embiid, MVP candidate, usually he's at 30 and whatever, but his presence out there was huge. Maxi's leading them right now with 24 points a night on great shooting clips. Harden's struggling. I don't know if we put it down to not playing for a while with Brooklyn, that whole ordeal, coming back. I put it down to the South Beach diet, especially those first 2 games. I think he was definitely out in the clubs and having some late nights, a lot of distractions there. But he's 18 a night at 38% pro from the field and 21% from the field, from the 3, sorry. So not great clips. Miami, Butler 23, 8 and 6. He's been solid as per usual. Tyler Herro stepped it up in this series. He's 19 and 4. 19, 4 and 4, 50% from the 3 off the bench. So he's the X factor for Miami. Miami's offense has tendencies, and historically it has the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. This squad, they have a tendency to dry up for a number of minutes, if not a quarter, where they just can't score the ball, and that happened to them in game 3. Herro is the guy that can change that, just come on and has a green light and can get them going when their offense is bogged down. So I think that's going to continue. Who wins from here? Stick or jump ship? I'm sticking with Miami 4-2. I think Philly will hold home court, but I think I think Miami will steal. I think they'll steal game 6. I think it'll go 4-2. I'll stay with that. You're at 4-1. Pro, you sticking or jumping ship?
I'm gonna stick with it. 4-1. You know, I still think that Miami will make adjustments. I think that they'll be fine. I think 4-1 still a solid pick. You know, Embiid, 18 and 11, nothing to scratch your head at, right? And, James, like you said, Harden's been off, for a little bit. And
season.
He's just been off.
At least with Philly.
Yeah, he's been off. And I don't know what the deal is, obviously. I don't care what the deal is. I just think that Miami's too good.
Did you see that Maxey thing, by the way?
What happened?
So, I don't know what the deal was, but there was someone had a video of I think it was game 2 or 3 with Harden and Maxey, I think, subbed out at the same time, and Maxey sat down, and then Harden sat next to him right on the bench, and then Maxey got up, moved down to the bottom of the end of the bench, and then I guess Harden wanted one of those pads, those veteran pads that they sit on. So then he went, and there was one next to where Maxey had moved, so Harden's moved to sit next to Maxey again, and Maxey's got up and moved back to where he was initially.
No shit.
Like it's not a huge thing, but someone had it on video saying obviously there's something going on, and that's pretty scathing. Like, he moved 3 times to get away from sitting next to James Harden, and seems to be a bit of frustration there. I'm not sure why. We have heard that James isn't the greatest of teammates, as far as he's not a bad teammate as far as being toxic, but he's not a guy that's going to hang out with guys off the floor. Notorious for getting on private jets, mid-season, mid-road trip to go to party in Vegas or whatever. Like, does his own thing, right? He's one of those guys, just does his own thing. But yeah, it was just an interesting one. I don't know if you saw it.
I didn't. And, obviously I'm going to defer to you on this, being the player. Like, have you ever seen that before, a teammate, like, do that as far as move away from somebody?
Oh, something's going on. Like, if it was once where he's like trying to get a different chair that's got that pad on it or whatever, you'd be like, all right, cool, whatever. But the fact that it happened to, 2 to 3 times in that 30 seconds, you're like, he doesn't want to sit next to him. It's obvious. Why? Who knows? But it was an interesting one. We're looking into things, obviously, sometimes too much, but I think there's something there. I think I don't know if Maxey feels like he should be on the ball more when Harden's on the floor. I don't know what it is.
You think Harden's got a gas problem? Maybe he farts?
A gas?
I mean,
I thought you meant a gas in the tank because he does look a bit out of shape still out there. But it's just not. Yeah, something's going on. Not a huge deal in the grand scheme of things, but could hurt Philly. You know, they need to be together, man. Like, you know, at this time of the season.
They will be together. They'll be together going fishing in about 2 more games, so don't worry about it. They're good.
Harder than going fishing. Oh, well, it depends how you define fishing.
TNT fishing.
for fish, though, right? But, yeah, what are your thoughts then? So you think it's gone 4-1, so you think Miami's going to win today?
Yeah, I think Miami wins this one and then just, like, demoralizing. You know the get fishing, the TNT gone fishing thing when they lose? Just want to make sure.
Oh, I was just being funny because, you know, fish can mean a bunch of different things.
You could edit that. Yeah, our guy could edit that out. I mean, he's making $10,000 a week from you, so might as well fucking earn it.
Shout out, Steve. All right, Warriors, Memphis, last one. This has been interesting now. There's a bunch of shit going on that we'll get to, but you hate to see this happen. But it's been a physical series. Borderline dirty, yes. Playoff series is like that. It is 2-1 currently. For Warriors, just walloped Memphis in Game 3. Losing Brooks really hurt him, I think. Just one less scorer out there, one less ball handler. Desmond Bane's apparently banged up. His back's messed up, and it shows. He's had a horrible series and just looks like he can't move out there. So Brooks' foul on Gary Payton Jr., or the second, or whatever it is, he put him out for basically, I don't know, for the year, but a fractured elbow is never good. And it was a poor foul. I don't know why. That early in the game, an open layup, so be it, right? Like, it's like, you're at home anyway, why do it? And I think it was a poor play. It's put one of their best defenders out, so it was dirty. Deserves a suspension, but just silly by Brooks, in my opinion. Game 3 was, like I said, it was just a pretty Warriors display. And their big 3 scorers, Steph has 30, Jordan Poole has 27, Kurt Thompson 21. Role players, Kuminga and Wiggins, 18 and 17 apiece. Kuminga coming to the starting lineup, pro. That was an interesting one. We didn't have coming. Apparently, the youngest player to ever start in a playoff game. So he played fantastically. He backed it up, I guess, because they wanted some size out there.
Oh, by the way, for the record, that stat is useful. By the way,
that is very useful. I was going to have it in there, but I was like, I'll just chuck it in this part because I got some better ones for you at that point. But Kuminga's been great for him, and this is going to be invaluable. Like the Warriors beast. Once Steph is getting older, and even Clay, it's going to run on, pro. Jordan Poole is a bona fide star. He's going to be an all-star in the next year or two. Kuminga's a great role. Like they got some dogs down there to build around. So we all thought that once Steph and Clay are getting grey hairs and moving on, and Draymond and whatnot, that they'd be back in a rebuild. I don't think it's going to be the case. I think they've got some really good pieces. But injury concerns now around Ja Morant. Status unknown. That they're saying most likely out, but as soon as you throw a likely word in there, it could be shenanigans. You just don't know. There's these chess battles with announcements. You don't look too much in them, and I assume the Warriors will be doing their scout with Ja Morant out there. They're not stupid enough to say, he's probably out, let's not worry about him. But the Grizzlies historically, they're 20-5 without Ja Morant. So, but not in a playoff series. I don't think that's going to really. They need him out there to win this game 4 if they get it. What were your thoughts on the grab of the knee by Jordan Poole, which has allegedly further injured Ja Morant's knee? Did you think it was blatantly dirty? Do you think it was on purpose? What are your thoughts on it?
I'm not a fucking mind reader with that shit, and I don't like reading into things.
No, what's your thoughts? You saw the footage, right?
Right. The thought is it was a basketball play. And the thought is, yes, it made contact with the knee, but it just seemed like his hand swiped down, making a basketball play. It wasn't something that he really cheap shot at him. I didn't see it initially. I missed the play. So I was expecting something really dirty. And then I saw the thing.
Yeah, same here. I
was like, that's not that dirty. That's not dirty at all, actually. So, yeah, I think it's a basketball play.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was, I think it was nothing. Maybe it was even it was a purpose foul, like to, I don't think it was like, that's that bad knee. Which one is it, left or right? I might pull on it. And even so, like pulling on it like that, you never think that's going to hurt somebody, right? Like, so I assume it's something not too serious for Ja, but I think it might have just tweaked things for him. But I don't think it was nowhere near the level of what Brooks did to GP. So I think now they're going back and forth. Steve Kerr came out and said that it was against the code, the player code, the unwritten code that players have, what Brooks did. Now Ja Morant's saying the same thing. So they've gone through all that bullshit. But anyway, there's a series to win. Can Memphis salvage a series? That's a question. The Warriors have all but eliminated a solid rim presence from the Grizz because they've just gone so uber small at times that they just kind of. Adams is that he's not going to get in this series, and when he does, it's garbage time like we saw last game. Clark's not even playing as much. He played 12 minutes last game, and that hurts to an extent. It's interesting that when teams go small, teams try to go and match them, but if that's not your MO, it's not your MO, and what it's doing is it's hurting Memphis's paint protection and rim presence because they just got no shot blockers down there. So these, Steph Curry, Jordan Poole, Klay Thompson, they start shooting the shit out of the ball like they did last game, and then all of a sudden they pump fake and get feet in the paint. Instead of being a 10-foot jumper or a floater, it's a layup on the rim or a free throw. So that's been interesting to watch. But who wins from here? For me, stick or jump ship. We both said 4-2 Warriors. I'll stick, but I think there's a chance that it could be 4-1. But I'll stick with 4-2 Memphis, potentially getting Game 5 and then making it go back to Golden State to wrap up. Oh, sorry, vice versa. This one's in Golden State. Sorry, so I think flip that actually.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick. I'm gonna go 4-1. I mean, I think Memphis is done. I think if Morant doesn't play in the next game, I think they're going to get wiped, and I think that just all the momentum is going to go the other way. Yeah, you know how they are. Golden State, especially when they get you. And that earlier comment that you made about the young guys coming in, to not replace, but just to sort of give them a little bit added oomph in their lineup. And let's not forget, you're missing out on Wiseman, which I don't think Wiseman's very good, but I think that they'll fool somebody else into trading for him and giving them a little bit of an asset. So they could not only get what they have with Poole and Kuminga, but now you could probably add another asset with Wiseman getting moved. If they do move Wiseman, maybe they'll move on from Looney and then they'll replace, move Looney for something, maybe a protected first, and then they'll just have Wiseman replace Looney. But Looney's really good with his role and he's young, so who knows? But I don't see Memphis getting back into this. I think they're fucked. And yeah, it is weird. You have Steven Adams, who's really good. He's one of my favorite centers in the league. Not the best by any stretch, but I just really like what he brings to the table. But you can't play him because you feel as though you got to go small and switch everything. And he'd be getting buried on the switch. But I'll tell you what, that rim protection, he's not a great shot blocker, but he's a good one. He's a smart defender. But you watch it in the Phoenix series when with Ayton, you have a big that could roll hard to the rim and finish inside. It really helps you. And if he could just play and not get just totally manhandled on the switch, that maybe you should try Adams. But I'm not an X and O guy. I don't know. I'm sure you sway towards the big. But what would you really do, Bogues, if you were Memphis and you can make the move and it's totally your call? Would you stay small? Would you mix it up and try to play Adams? What are you doing?
Well, I think you can punish them on the O board for sure because Golden State switch 1 through 5 for the most part. Draymond will end up on a guard. Steph will end up on maybe a rolling big. So I think you can definitely punish there. You got to get those O boards and just make them work and make them box you out and make it physically grueling for Steph or Klay, if you're boxing out of Steven Adams, you're going to feel it every possession, right? I'm coming at you, right? But they got to try something different. Just going matchup to matchup. Memphis going uber small. I don't love it. I know the NBA has gone that way. My adjustment would be, this is easier said than done, would be, maybe it'd be in a half blitz on anything Draymond Green setting. Let him hit Draymond in the short roll and then, make Draymond shoot that, not so much shoot that jumper, but he's going to dribble into the lane. He's going to wait for a help defender and he wants to kick out to three-point shooters and get his assist numbers and whatever. I'd make him finish at the rim and if he has a 30 ball by rolling to the rim and putting pressure on the rim, I'd take that over the ball movement, wide open feet set threes that just break your back. That's kind of my adjustment. So I do a half blitz and be kind of in the paint a little bit, like Giannis-esque for a second, but fake and fade at Draymond and have him guessing where I'm getting back to shooters. And then if he's coming down and dunking on people, I mean, you probably live with that to an extent because it's not what he wants to do. Like he hasn't had a great scoring season or scoring run the last 3 or 4 years. He's not a guy that you ever think wants to score over 20. He's capable of it. He's capable of it if really made to, but he doesn't want to do that. And I think if he's got the ball in his hands a lot and he's the one shooting most of the shots, I think that somewhat plays in your favor because Steph's not getting in a rhythm, Jordan Poole's not getting in a rhythm, Clay's not getting in a rhythm. So, and like I said, this is easier said than done. The Warriors have so many schemes and so many counters to people doing that because they've seen it for the last 5-6 years that they will, they will adjust and have counters for it. But that's what I'd try. I'd be like, fuck it. I'm just going to try to whoever he. But they might then move him off the ball, put him in the dunker, and then have Clay set the ball screens. That'll be the adjustment, right? Instead of bringing Draymond up. So they have plenty of counters to go to. But I'd at least try it. And then punish them on the other end on the offensive glass. At least give it a try for 4 or 5 minutes and see how it goes. But I'm not a huge fan of just, they're small. Oh, shit, we better go small and switch 1 through 5 because it takes away from what Memphis have been good at. Or don't forget, we mentioned this stat during the season. Steven Adams was one of the all-time highs in offensive rebound percentage this season when he was in games, right? Like he gets you so many extra second possessions because even though he's not a great shooter, he's one of those notorious guys that you can't overhelp off him because he just wedges the whole side of the floor. So what I mean by that is if you're a help side defender and I'm going to start hedging more towards the side of the basket Steph or Clay are on because I'm guarding Steven Adams opposite me, you go and help a little bit and then someone shoots it. As soon as you turn your head, like this motherfucker's like boxed you out on that whole side of the floor. So then he's got that was what he was notorious for in the regular season, but now he's not out there. So that physicality's gone pro. So I'd be interested to see what they do. They got to do something because last game was ugly. And that's the Warriors haven't had that game against Memphis in this series till that last game where everything just clicked offensively and they just broke their back. They demoralized them, right? And that's the danger of when you play Golden State and they get in a rhythm.
Yeah, and don't forget Kuminga. If Kuminga starts getting comfortable, they're fucked. Like he's been a guy who's been like up and down all year, depending on how many minutes he got. Been a good player. Look, he's an all-star type player. If in his development, I mean, he's got a long way to go. He's very young, very athletic, very talented. But if he starts getting a little confidence, that as a player. If you have confidence going, I don't give a fuck how good or how much of a bum you are. You've got confidence like that, and you're doing well. Fuck, it's trouble. It's troublesome for sure. I mean, you already know Poole can do it. Those other guys can do it. Now, the last guy you really expect to explode in a series could be Kuminga. Now, I mean, that's a major fucking issue.
Yeah, his athleticism is amazing. Wiggins has been solid for him. I want to say all-star-esque, but doesn't need to be. Just plays his role, defends. He's been rebounding his ass off, getting him extra possessions. He's been solid as well. So they're prime and ready. They're getting. I mean, right now, they're probably playing the best basketball, at least in the West, in my opinion, with the way they're playing. And not even, they didn't play great in the first couple of games, but they still got the wins, right? You know what I mean? Like, so, or at least in game 1, I felt like they didn't play that. And they were in game 2 for the most part. But the game 3, they played perfectly. So I think they're playing really, really well. Moving on to some news. Mike Brown has just been announced as the head coach of the Sacramento Kings, bro. You like this?
I don't love it. Look, Mike Brown has been around a long time, but he's had a lot of chances. And I'm a big fan of, young coaches that that haven't had their chance yet, especially in a job like Sacramento. I'm a big fan of, giving other people like, Sean Sweeney from Dallas. There's, decent assistants from, there's a San Antonio guy, I forgot the guy's name, that's on the Boston staff. There's guys like that. I'd rather give a chance to somebody like that than, obviously the owner of SAC has it for Golden State. He's hired 2 Golden State head coaches now, ex-assistants. So obviously he likes that coaching tree, but I'd rather a young coach, no offense to Mike Brown, but like I said, I'd rather give, like we always complain about retreads. I would rather a coach that really hasn't had a chance yet try to get a job and see where he's at. That's my opinion. And look, Mike Brown's been around. The problem with hiring an assistant coach from a championship level team and a great team is you don't have the great players usually when you go to the next team. So all that split action, great offense that you run in Golden State, there's a fucking reason for it. It's called having like 4 Hall of Famers in your roster. Like that shit runs a lot easier. It's like all those fucking, Phil Jackson disciples that tried to run the fucking triangle. You could run the trapezoid, the fucking oval, or wherever the fuck other shape offense you want to run, but it's not going to work unless you have great players in your team. So,
well, another example of that is Luke Walton, right? So,
yeah. Luke was the Golden State guy.
Yeah, and he was part of that big run we went on when Steve was sick and went to the Lakers and tried to implement the same system with different players, and you realize you don't have Steph and Clay, and you're spot on.
Like I said, Mike Brown is a great name. I know Mike; he's a good coach. I'm just a big fan of giving other people an opportunity. David Vanderpool from that got that didn't get hired in Minnesota, but he's in Brooklyn now. Like guys, like just give new guys a chance. Like if you're a really good team, or you're a big market organization, you're the Knicks, you're the Lakers, you're Chicago, then go for the retread. Go for the guy because he's been around, he's got experience. You don't want to give a young guy a job like that or an unproven person. Mike Brown's been in the finals. Look, he does a good job, but like I call Sacramento a developmental team. If you get a developmental team like that, I would give it to an unproven and giving somebody a chance to see if they have it. That's just me. What about you? What's your feeling?
Here's my take. I think what they've done and their thought process, if there is one in Sacramento, but I think they've probably said we've got a young team. I think there's definitely some discipline issues in that squad, some accountability issues, all of the above in a young team. That's not a knock. That happens with young teams. It's who's the guy on our team? Why is this guy getting away with this? Why is this happening? That's normal on young teams, most young teams in the NBA. I think their play is, we want so Mike Brown has at one time been known as a disciplinarian and a harder-nosed kind of no-nonsense kind of coach, and probably overdid it at times earlier in his career, right? So I think they're thinking we need that, and we don't want to go young and unknown because we don't know what we're going to get. And a lot of the younger coaches, with the way the game's going, aren't that guy. That they're a bit more kind of jovial and friendly with players, and it's probably, you could argue that's how it's going and that's how the game's going. So I think Sacramento probably look at it like we want a line in the sand guy. We want a guy that's no nonsense. That's kind of my thinking of it. I think they want a guy, and he has been that guy. I think if he tweaks it a little bit, I've said this about Scott Skiles. I think if Scott Skiles could just tweak that a little bit, where he was probably too far. The mail on him was year 2, year 3, players are burned out and don't want to play for him, and that would happen the last couple of teams that he coached. If he could just tweak that a little bit, he's one of the smartest coaches I've ever played for, and I mentioned that on the My Journey series. He's an unbelievable basketball IQ. He's one of the best coaches I've seen off a board in panic mode timeouts where you need to draw some shit up. He's fantastic. We were prepped to practice, but he probably just wore guys down because it was too much. It was every shoot around, every minute of shoot around, and every minute of meetings, and it was in guys. If he just tweaked that, he'd have a job forever, right? So I hope Mike Brown has learned from that under Steve and with Golden State that, sometimes I need to push that panic button, but it can't be daily. You know what I mean? It can't be every session because guys are going to burn out. So I think that's their play. Whether it works out or not, who knows? But definitely an interesting one. I assume they asked Harrison Barnes about the other candidates.
Yeah, I'm sure.
The Mark Jackson one, but that probably wasn't too good for Mark Jackson. And then moving on from that, you've got the Lakers have hired Phil Jackson as a consultant to help oversee the coach hiring, which is interesting, along with Kurt Rambis and his wife and his kid and his cousins and whoever else is involved in that process. But do you see now? Mark Jackson's still rumored as one of the faves. He's a clutch client. The whole bromance with LeBron. LeBron's been on record saying he likes him. Mark Jackson's had somewhat a interesting last few years, or at least a couple of years after the firing in Golden State with the preaching on the street and some wild videos and accusations. Phil Jackson's kind of the anti that, I think. But what are your thoughts? I mean, you kind of said you think that they probably will win this way because Mark Jackson's desperate.
Here's my thoughts. Hey, Phil, you want an extra $2 million to sip lattes in fucking LA for 2 days a year and we'll give you $2 million? That's what I think. I think look, there's nobody left in his coaching tree. Like, Derek Fisher, Kurt Rambis, all those other older assistants that he had in Chicago and LA, they're all gone, so there's no one really like, Brian Shaw. You're not going to hire fucking Brian Shaw again. I mean, it wasn't good when you hired him before. It's not going to be good again. Like, I think that Mark Jackson, look, a real coach isn't going to want that job. Like, a real coach is going to want to hire his own staff. The front office hires most of your staff in LA. That's why that's why, like other coaches didn't take it in the past because they want to control their own staff. And, Frank Vogel took it because it's a lot of money and it's the Lakers. But you're not going to get a real coach like a Nick Nurse. You're not going to get guys like that because, look, to be good, you're going to have your own people that you trust. And they're going to tell you who your development guys are. They're going to tell you who probably one, if not two of your assistants are going to be. You could probably hire the second intern and the video guy and maybe one assistant coach if you're the coach of the Lakers now. So I think that, and plus now, I don't know what happens here, but do they care if LeBron comes back or not? I'm sure they do, but meaning like, are they going to let Clutch call this? Because if Clutch calls it, it's going to be Mark Jackson. If they saying, look, we're going to lose LeBron anyway because we're not going to draft the son in the first round, so he's going to walk in after a year, so we're just going to get another coach. Next year will be a shit show. Hopefully they know next year is going to be a shit show. They're not just lying to themselves. I'm sure they're going to try to do some things, but I think Mark Jackson is the hire. I'm sure Phil Jackson will probably try to come up with a name or two, but I think the tidal wave of, look, I think they need to keep LeBron, to be honest with you, because they love names, they love superstars, even if it's in the past. They're not going to want to have LeBron walk, and they're not going to hire a real coach because LeBron doesn't want to get coached like that.
And they're not a rebuild. They're not a rebuild organization anyway. So
so I think Mark Jackson's the guy there, and because Mark's not going to look. Mark's not going to. I don't think a leopard ever changes their spots. Whatever he was in Golden State, I think he's learned a little bit, but I think he's going to be about 80% of that, at least. So I think that he knows that he's not going to fuck with LeBron, and he's going to let LeBron do what he wants, do whatever LeBron and AD wants, and to try to make the best of it and collect his $5 million a year and chill in Manhattan Beach. Shit, that's what I would fucking do with it. So I think Mark Jackson. I think Phil will probably try to fight it, but at the end, I think that they're going to be like, you know what? They'll probably try to play hardball at first and be like, well, if LeBron leaves, he leaves, and by the end of it, they're going to be like, we can't lose LeBron, so whoever he wants to be our coach, he's going to be the coach. And I think that that's going to be Mark Jackson, because I think Magic Johnson will put his 2 cents in. And I think, Magic's got more pull than Phil. And Magic, don't forget, Magic and Mark are very close. Mark used to go to LA to play at UCLA to play pickup with Magic throughout his whole career. Those guys are pretty tight. So I think, and plus him being on TV with Van Gundy and having that name, I think the Lakers are going to end up hiring him. So it's very much like at the end of Kobe's career, where they didn't really hire a real coach. They hired Byron Scott, who wanted to golf 6 days a week, and just they just wanted a name. I think that's what they want. They want to get a name, let them finish this LeBron thing off, see what happens with it. And then, they'll probably give it a mark in a couple more years after that, and then move on to another coach. That's my opinion. What do you think, folks?
Yeah, it looks like he's going to be one of the favorites to get it. I just thought there'd be Mark's uber religious, is it pastor, preacher, whatever you want to call it, and Phil Jackson just seems like the opposite. Smoke some weed and do some yoga kind of guy. You know what I mean? So I just thought they'd be polar opposites personality wise. But I think your point around, Mark Jackson is desperate at this point to get back in coaching. This is the job to take, and he'll be much more controllable by management and Phil Jackson and the hierarchy in the Lakers. They'll be able to move him around like a chess piece. It won't be one of those coaches that's like, this is how I coach, and I'm not dealing with all other shit. I think Mark's gonna have to deal with all that other shit. And when he was in Golden State, he didn't handle that very well. He hated feedback from the front office. He didn't like feedback from analytics, the video stuff. Jerry West famously got banned from practice sessions. So that could be the 20% tweak you're talking about, where it's just like, you know what, in LA, I'm in a beautiful spot. He lives there, I believe, still to this day. I love it here. I'm just going to shut up and bow to the masters and listen to what they say and do what they say. And if we win, we win. If we lose, we lose. As long as LeBron and management are happy, I'll kind of keep my job. So I think that'll go that way. But Magic's
also Phil likes to ban Jerry West from his locker room. So maybe him and Mark Jackson could like bond over that.
The common extension of the branch of the tree that brings them together. That's an underrated part of all this. So, but yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, it'd be fantastic for the podcast. I'd love it. It's just another whole few years of material. So, can't wait to see that. Ben Simmons, I don't know what the hell's going on here, bro. But I had to chat about this briefly. Ben Simmons went from being cleared for Game 4 by, I guess, Brooklyn or was potentially going to be ready for Game 4. That was all the reports. He went from that to then his back season up to then needing back surgery a week later. So I'm lost. I think there's plausible theories that go either way. It was Brooklyn was kind of pressuring him to, and he said, I might be back for Game 4. They released that to put more pressure on him when they knew his back was pretty messed up and now he needs surgery. There's the flip side where Ben probably thought, let me just push this off as much as possible and not tell anyone my back's messed up. There's theories that, do you really have surgery? Who knows, man? You just don't know this far on with everything going on. It's just a strange one. Like I said, going from almost playing Game 4/Game 5 to then needing back surgery a week later. Something's amiss in that organization. Something's amiss with Ben that we already know that, things aren't going too well there. But what's your theory on it? I mean, do you think it's all legitimate? What we read, we believe, or do you think there's some shenanigans going on?
I don't know what to believe anymore. Maybe he was like, fuck this, I ain't playing this bullshit. And he was squatting 600 on purpose until his back gave out. Who the fuck knows? I mean, I don't know. You know what? It's past to the point of, look, I was all for him not playing. I don't think that he could have made much of an impact on the series. He needs to be massaged from June 1st all the way October 1st just to get to fucking training camp. He's just that, when you have to put that much energy into a quote unquote superstar that you're paying $30+ million to, there's always just going to be shenanigans going on. So I don't know what to believe. I wouldn't say that he'd make up a back surgery, but it is weird that he was almost cleared and now he needs back surgery or a procedure. I don't know if they officially said what it was. So, I mean, he could have got a fucking mold taken off his back. Who the fuck knows? It's just, look, when you're a superstar, it shouldn't be this hard to get you on the court. Again, I don't think he should have played, but it's just been too hard to get this fucking guy on the court. And when you're a superstar and they got to beg you to fucking play, there's a fucking problem here. Not a red flag, a ginormous red fucking flag is going to go on with this kid. And if you're a real superstar, like a LeBron, a Kobe, a Larry Bird, a Michael Jordan, I'll keep going on and on. Did you have to beg any of those motherfuckers to play one fucking minute? No. They will beat you to a fucking pulp to get on the fucking court. And you got to just put that much energy into getting this guy play. I don't care about the story, by the way. I don't give a fuck. I don't know what it is. I don't care what it is. But it's just a whole thing surrounding him. If you want to be a player, man the fuck up and just get on the court. Stop the shenanigans. Stop the agent bullshit. Stop this. I'm a basketball player or you're a fucking clown. Which one are you? Stop it. It's just, look, I deal with superstars. I deal with players who want to play. And it's a fucking joke to the league that you're an all-star and people got to beg you to fucking play. And it's a fucking joke. So that's what I think about that.
Yeah, I think that the twist in this is also from the point of Brooklyn. It's what the hell are you guys doing? I know they need to protect him to an extent, and they've been, but I think they've handled this pretty poorly, and I think I agree somewhat. They've probably handled it poorly because they're like, what do we do here? What do we say? Do we say, hey, his back's fine, he just doesn't want to play? Then they look bad, a la Doc Rivers throwing him under the bus for performance. Then that hurts the anxiety. Like, it's a lose-lose situation, and I think Brooklyn are now thrown in the muddy waters as well. You know what I'm saying? Like
Brooklyn, put the logo request in. Forget about the Brooklyn Nets. I want them to have the emoji of the fucking person just shrugging their shoulders. That's their new fucking logo for their team. Because look, again, I'll go back to the whole fucking trade that they made, right? And I think getting Steph Curry was great for them. But if you don't make the trade and you just lose out on Harden, okay, yeah, you're a little bit fucked. Don't get me wrong. You have to lose him for almost nothing. You know, maybe a sign and trade, probably not. But you don't have this fucking hulking contract that's almost has no value to it anymore.
No, not anymore.
Yeah. So like maybe Harden would have like had a change of heart. It's a fucked up thing to say, but maybe he ended up playing. I know people said, oh, he wasn't going to play. He was going to fake his injuries. He wasn't going to play, blah, blah, blah. But at least maybe you could have coerced him into playing. And even if you didn't, there would have been basically no difference, you know, in the scenario. What would have happened? You probably would have got swept. Then you would have got him off the books, and then you just fucking start over, whatever. Now you took on a guy that doesn't get to the starting gate. Forget about doesn't perform in playoffs. That's not what we're talking about. He can't even get to the fucking starting gate. He can't get to the arena. Forget about the finals. He can't get to the fucking arena. And you're begging him, yes, Ben, we're going to give you $40 million. Just fucking, you know, that's it. Just wear a jersey on media day. But like you're begging a so-called superstar to play. And again, I don't care that he didn't play in the playoffs. I don't think he would have been. I think it's fine that he didn't play. But it's just all this other shit. Stop the fucking shenanigans.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see him out there. Like,
Me too.
You know, this isn't a Bash Ben thing. It's like, we want to see you out there because you're a fantastic player when you're up and about and you're in your prime. You know, you're a 10, 10, and 10 guy a night at stages. You're an elite defender. This, you know, outside of the free throws, who gives a shit? Like, you miss some free throws, so what? Like, you got to, you know, there's so much good that you do out there.
Dude, Shaq couldn't make a free throw.
Yeah.
And he was an MVP.
Exactly.
And like, it was a joke. You saw that.
Yeah, Giannis has gone through it. And I think, I'll go back to my point, I think the longer he prolongs this delay of playing, whether it is a legitimate injury or not, let's say it is, that performance anxiety, that beast gets bigger and bigger until you face it from an anxiety point of view. Any sports psych you talk to is going to tell you the same thing. You got to eventually, we're going to give you enough tools to get out and face that beast. And then when you're face to face with it and you get to the free throw line and everyone's booing you and you've airballed one and whatever, here's some techniques to get your mind back onto what it needs to be. You need to do that, and that's a currency. So you do that for one game, you do it for 10 games, you do it for 30 games of regular season. Then guess what? The playoffs start. Then it's a different beast again. Then it's sold out arenas. Then it's people hacking you on purpose or going at you or picking on you or whatever, right? Then that's a different beast. And it's easier said than done. And I've been through it. I've been through similar things. Everyone's gone through them in different portions. You might be a bad defender and it's like, holy shit, they're putting me in every action. Like, they're making me look like an idiot, right? And then I'll ask Steph Curry, goes in the off season, watches tape, gets a bit stronger in the weight room, comes back, bang. He's at an average, if not above average level as a defender. So I think this hurts him because it's now going to be 2 years almost till he plays a basketball game. And that performance anxiety is just for that first game back pro, even if it's preseason against Maccabi Tel Aviv, that performance anxiety in that first fucking game is going to be on 190. Not 100, right? And I think that's my concern with it. The longer he waits, it's just going to continue. So, you know, like we've said a million times, off Instagram, get in the gym, see a sports psych, build yourself up. We're backing you to make a journey back as an Australian, as a former Australian NBA representative. We want you back at the top so we can talk about the good things. And once that happens, bro, we'll forget about this bullshit. Like,
no doubt. No one gives a fuck.
Yeah, Australians probably a little bit longer because tall poppy's right here, but you know, everyone loves that story. Everyone loves that boxer that gets knocked out and comes back, and hopefully he can do that. So, Draymond Green. Now, tell me about this guy, Mad Dog Pro. I don't know shit about him. Who is he? First time I've heard of him.
Yeah, Mad Dog was a very,
What's
very
his actual name? Do you know?
No, I have no idea. But I just like to call him Mad Dog. But Mad Dog was a very popular radio host, sports radio host, for years, for 20, 30, 40 years, like New York area. Like he's like Stephen A. Smith. And they're perfect together because all he does is rant. He's a pretty good, pretty knowledgeable guy, old school guy. He's an older guy. I would think he's close to 70 if I had to guess. And like I said, he is one of the best of all time as far as radio shows. And
what city?
I think out of New York, Bogues, if I had to guess.
Chris Russo is his name. Chris Mad Dog Russo.
Chris Russo, yeah. Mm-hmm. And there's actually a 30 for 30 with Mike and the Mad Dog show. They did a show for years, and they were like number one in New York and in the country as like just a ranting in the 90s, 80s and 90s, I believe, and up to the 2000s. But yeah, he's a guy. He's like Stephen A. Smith. He yells a lot. He rants a lot. A pretty knowledgeable guy, but like he knows how to pull people's strings, and especially his callers because he's got a huge following. At least he did. I think he still has a pretty good following. I don't think ESPN would have hired him. I think he replaced what's his name, Kellerman, when Stephen A. Smith got him fired. I think they brought Mad Dog in because those guys could yell and now
yell and scream.
now and scream. And now JJ Redick obviously is not a huge fan of Mad Dog. You could tell that in his shows, but. Yeah, so that's Mad Dog. Real famous radio guy. Loves to rant, loves to rave, loves to have a little bit of controversy. So, as hot takes and things like that. Like Steve, again, a younger Stephen A. Smith, older Stephen A. Smith.
Well, anyway, for context for fans in here, he said something along the lines of, Draymond just needs to shut up and get on with it. We're sick of hearing about Draymond now. Draymond has his own podcast. He's a guy that's going to call it as he sees it. And I'm sure he would tell you sometimes he's wrong, sometimes he's right, but you want that. You want those personalities. I do anyway. I'd rather an athlete that tells us what they think and feel, and he's not shy of that at all. He actually, it's been interesting because he goes on mic after games and gives his rundown on how things went, and I think it's been really cool. Fans have really appreciated it. So anyway, Mad Dog's just kind of said, you need to shut up and dribble, essentially. Draymond's come back and said, this is the new media, buddy. You're aging. You're phasing out. You're kind of ilk that just, and I'm not a huge fan of the rant and rave Stephen A. Smith types. I think it just gets old. It's the same thing every time. It's like there's no real nothing clever about it. It's just like you can tell producers have said, hey, this will get us front page and have people talking on social media and be clickbaity. Give us some takes. And they know two guys like Mad Dog versus Stephen A. Smith is gonna get clickbaited to death. But Draymond did throw out the racist connotation. He said that, those comments have a racist connotation to them. And like Pro said many times, I'm not going to go into the brain of Draymond Green as to why he thinks that. I don't think it has those connotations. I just think it has a standard talkback radio douchebag type connotation of what every talkback radio kind of sports broadcaster does. They try to incite people to get all, I'm offended by that, or you can't say that, or agitated. I'm going to go on social media, and then it plays into their brand because more people are listening, sponsors love it, more clicks, more money, right? So, it's just an interesting one. But I like Draymond going back. I think he has every right to go back at people like that, and I think it's fair game, Pro.
Yeah, I think that look, if you believe in it or not, the shut up and dribble thing is a sensitive subject. It's sensitive. I'm not a big catchphrase guy. I'm not a big just putting names to things, but the shut up and dribble thing is a big deal. And regardless if you believe that athletes should be, talking about political stuff and things, and this is not a political thing. I think Draymond, if I'm not mistaken, was complaining about the officiating and referees and maybe his flagrant ejection.
I think it was around the fact that he had did he break his eye? He did something to his eye or his nose, was pissing out blood. He had to walk to the locker room to get stitched up or whatever, and they were booing him. And that's when he was like, yeah, I flipped them off because they were booing a man that was bleeding and in immense pain and walking to a locker room. So I'll take that. Take that fine.
Yeah.
Which I agree with to an extent. Like you probably don't want to flip them off, but I agree with to an extent. But yeah, go ahead.
No doubt. And look, and Mad Dog's probably with the probably old school crowd of players. Players should play and they shouldn't complain, and they don't like people who complain. It's sort of like back in the 80s, it was like Bill Lambert. Lambert used to yell and scream and this and that. And, people didn't want to hear it. They just want, they just want play. They just want people to play. And I think that old school wants players to play and do their thing, right? And not yell and scream and rant and rave and all that. But the new age NBA, the young kids want to see that. They want to see more, interaction. Doesn't matter if it's just talking about the game, talking about complaining, talking about politics, whatever it is. They want to hear that as much as possible. And that's probably the divide where like old school people just want to see the games and new school want to see all the other content. Like the new school NBA is like the WWF. It's like, it's all entertainment and it's basketball, but it's a lot of entertainment. I don't think anything had to do racially. I do disagree with that. I do think that athletes, if they want to get podcasts and stuff like that and talk about things and give more content to the game, obviously they can do that. I think Mad Dog was just talking about, he just doesn't want to hear it, right? He comes from the old school. And, Draymond obviously going to be fired back. And then, JJ Redick fired back, basically at Mad Dog. We're going to see a celebrity boxing match between JJ Redick and Mad Dog because those guys you could tell those guys do not like each other. Maybe it's shtick for the show, but it just doesn't seem like, because JJ's like pro player, and then Mad Dog is like, he likes riling players up. So it's an interesting dynamic, and Stephen A just sort of sits there and eats popcorn to watch it because it's weekly shenanigans. It happens, almost daily probably, but something, usually those guys argue at least once a week. So that's what the whole, sort of talk show deal is. It's all about just arguing, yelling, screaming, and getting hot takes. I don't think it was racial. It is what it is. I'm a huge Draymond Green fan. I love what he brings to the game. He's the new age Dennis Rodman, not as fucked up, but like he's outspoken.
He hasn't married himself yet.
Yeah, not yet. But, he's going to tell you he's not going to shut up. Nobody is going to shut that guy up. And he isn't, he's like the Mark Cuban of players. You could fine him. You could suspend him. He will not shut up. He actually would probably like the fines and suspensions because it gives him more it gives him more sort of headlines on it. And he loves that attention. And that's just him. He just like, those guys, you played with him. I mean, I know you played with him, but like some guys need to get revved up like that and they need stuff like that. They're constantly talking. Like KG was sort of like that to a different extent where he needed something to fuel himself. And I think that's what he is. He just keeps talking and yelling, and that's just him. So,
yeah, and I think the shut up and dribble thing, I don't think it's race based. I cop that shit. I don't even play basketball anymore, so I get told to shut up and dribble all the time. I'm like, I'm retired. I can't dribble anymore, so it should just be shut up. But to your point around the political stuff, I got no problems with players. I'll still go on record saying this. If players want to talk politics, if they want to talk social issues, if they want to talk about the moon landing, I don't care. As long as it's somewhat, if you've got your own podcast and you do it, no problem. Or if someone reaches out to you away from the basketball part of the telecast. So my only issue is like if you're watching a basketball game and it's a halftime interview and someone all of a sudden they're like, so how do you think you played today? And it goes into like something about politics. I think that's where I draw the line. I'm like, because I'm a fan of basketball as well. I want to watch 2.5 hours of basketball or football or golf, and I don't want to hear about all the other bullshit I hear about 22 hours a day, right? So that's where I draw the line. Some will argue, well, that's a prime opportunity to get your cause out there and this and that. Yes, but we're going to hear it on news or newspapers or social media anyway, right? So that's an escape for a lot of people. So I understand that and I agree with that. I think that's where I draw the line. But outside of that, if a journalist reaches out and says, hey, I want to talk to you about what you think about X, Y, Z or this or that outside of basketball, no worries. An athlete should be allowed to have an opinion. So I disagree heavily. The shut up and dribble thing's funny because it only works, for people that if you're for my cause, I'm all for the athlete, like say what you want. And then if you're not for something that person agrees with, shut up and dribble. And I see it all the time because there's a bit of hypocrisy with all that. But I like Draymond going back. I think he's right about the new age media now. I think there is some people that are, I want to say scared, but I think the culture around media is changing because an athlete can literally go on IG Live. They can, like Draymond, travel with a microphone and podcast recording equipment and upload it themselves instantly after a game, and that's getting more views than some of these shows after games. These are analysis shows, right? So I think there is some cause for concern with new age media, and he's right. It's changing. There's guys that haven't played the game that just sit behind a desk. Yeah, there's still a few that are valuable, but as time goes on, you look at what JJ Redick's doing now, and he's doing a fantastic job with his analysis. He knows the game, high IQ guy. He's played with all kinds of stars. He's played all around the US and the NBA and college and whatnot. Played overseas in some international tournaments. That's more valuable than a mad dog just sitting behind a desk ranting, in my opinion. And I think that's where we're going to see the changing of the guard. So we'll continue to watch that space, and I'm sure it's not the last we'll see of Draymond providing analytics for post game and what his thoughts are. So keep it up to Draymond Green. We love it. Finally, a guy, Dirk Nowitzki. I don't know if you saw his comments, Pro, but I made a note of these because they relate to me perfectly. But he made some comments around, I guess he did a soccer podcast with someone, a fellow German, famous soccer player. I don't have the name, and he said something about, his body, right? And he said, I keep thinking whether the last 2 years in the NBA were really worth it. If I had quit 2 years earlier, I could probably move better today to play soccer with the kids sometimes. I can't do that at all right now. And I saw this and I was like, it kind of validated my decision to retire, bro. I patted myself on the back because I played with Dirk for half a year, and he wasn't moving well for the last probably 4 years of his career there in Dallas.
I'd say 2.5 to 3. Yeah,
2.5 to 3. And you could tell it just hurt him to get out of a chair. He was, I remember shoot around some mornings. If he's sitting on the side, you'd have to kind of get a shovel to wedge him off the chair because he played so much basketball at a high level. His body was banged up, his knees, his ankles, his back. And I hate to relate it to myself, but when I came back to the NBL, it was for that reason, because I wanted to tone it down and not play every other night. I thought the NBL once, twice a week, at home, much better, whatever. And then, I pushed all my chips to the table, as everyone knows, for the 2020 Olympics, and then that got delayed, and everyone was like, why not one more year? This was the reason. I went through this with my kids, with my back issues, the last year or two of my career, where I'd come home from practice and couldn't take them to a park, couldn't push them on a swing properly at times. And my theory was, I was like, I can get another probably 2 or 3 years out of myself at 15 minutes a game if I really want to, in the NBL at least. Is that going to hinder me when I'm 40 or 45? Is that going to make me feel like I'm 60 at 45? That is extra 2 years. And, I like to analyze things and critically think about things, and I kind of, in my head, jotted down the pros and cons, and I came to the conclusion that it probably is. God forbid I go out there and get hurt again with something else. Already had a broken ankle, a broken shin, stress fractures in my back, a broken elbow. Something freak could happen. These things happen in basketball. And then just more grind on the limbs. This Dirk Nowitzki comment just hit home for me. And I can still play soccer with my kids, thankfully. I can still get out and bat and run. I can still work out and go in the weight room. And I have to keep in shape. But for those out there that, athletes, it's such a great life. And yes, they are compensated a shitload of money. They are rock stars at times. But Dirk Nowitzki at 40 years old can't do things that most 40-year-olds do. And that's the price you pay, pro. So I thought it was worth noting, seeing these comments, that sometimes it's better to give it up rather than playing on for an extra 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. I mean, look, for a competitor, especially at a high level like you were, like Dirk was, you watch it with Kobe, you watch it with MJ. Those guys never really want to give it up. You're a true competitor. You never want to give it up because it's a feeling that you'll never get back. And you see it in a lot of post-playing career where, they do anything for competition, and they'll do it because that's all they know in most cases. And, Dirk is as competitive as anyone else can get. And yeah, it definitely pays dividends. Look, I spent a lot of time with Kevin Mchale, and Kevin broke his foot, I want to say in 91? In the playoffs, anywhere from like 89 to 91. And like he walks with a pretty bad limp for the rest of his career because he didn't like stop playing that year and get it fixed because he wanted to make the last run for the playoffs. And it really cost him. Like if you look at his ankle, it's blown up probably like.
Man, it hurts me to see that dude walk.
Yeah. And Kevin's the best. And yeah, I mean, it definitely hurts, with Dirk. But look, I think that players don't really get it at the time, especially later career, the damage they could do to themselves. It's sort of like football players or boxers taking more hits to the head, and they could really impact their livelihood 10 years down the road. And I think with Dirk gave everything he could for that organization in that city. And I think that he owed it. It's sort of like what Kobe used to always say. He's like, look, if somebody's gonna pay to watch me play, MJ had the same philosophy. If someone's gonna pay to watch me play, I'm not gonna sit. Unless I really have to, I'm gonna make it worth. I'm gonna earn my money every night. And everybody that sees me, I want to give them their money's worth. And I think that Dirk did the same thing. He tried to compete on non-competitive teams. Those teams really didn't have much chances to make the playoffs most of those years. And forget about winning any playoff games. So he just did it for the love of the city, for the love of the competition, for the love of the fans, for the love of the organization. And it's sad to say because Dirk's one of the better gentlemen in the league, and he's one of the more likable people in the history of the league. And yeah, it sucks to see. He said that a while back. I remember reading it. I think he got interviewed somewhere about a month or two ago, and I remember reading that quote, and it's pretty sad because he loves his family, he loves being home, and if that impacts him to that extent where he can't run with his kids or do whatever, it's pretty sad.
It is. Just thought I'd mention it because I thought it was very, very useful, and I think his comments were spot on. I think that the fact that he can realise that now sucks in hindsight. That now has all the money in the world and whatever, but you'd probably give those 2 years back, give that money back if you could have a somewhat healthy lifestyle with your kids. But that's the price athletes pay. It's also the price everyday people pay that work out in working mines or construction sites or whatever. Like my father as well, screwed his neck up from being a mechanic. So I totally get it that athletes are compensated, but there is another side to it. So you just got to put that out there. The NBL real quick. Sydney Kings currently 2-0 in the grand final series against the Tasmania Jack Jumpers. Kind of a blowout win in game one for the most part. Jalen Adams, MVP of the league, does his hamstring. I think it was the late third, early fourth quarter. We still get that win. Have to go to Tasmania in a hostile environment. That place is absolutely bonkers. They get set out at 5,000, I think, but it's loud. It's closer to the court, college type atmosphere. It was always going to be a tough task down there, and we got it done late. Dejan Vasiljevic was huge. Hit a big three late in that game after Adams, hit a big three for them, tied the game, and then we got up late in that game and he hit a big three to seal it when we're up 1. So absolutely huge. 2-0 going back to Sydney on Wednesday. Jalen Adams, who knows where he's going to be at, but I'm not too optimistic for that game, but we'll see what happens. He's getting treatment by the day. Hopefully he'll be back for that one, but we'll see what happens. Like I said, hamstrings are always a tough one. But yeah, we got a chance to wrap up the grand final against your Jack Jumpers Pro. But what I will say is it's going to be tough. Closeout games are a bitch. Meaning when you have to shut a team out for the rest of their season in a closeout game, they fight tooth and nail. And this Tassie team, they fight, bro. They we had them down in Sydney at one point. They just keep playing, man. They move the ball really well. They guard hard. They got, like I said at the start of the season, they've got guys that weren't really wanted commodities on their teams. They were 8, 9, 10 guys. Is he an NBL player? Isn't he? And they brought a bunch of those guys in and they're playing their balls off. So I've really enjoyed, if the Kings weren't the team playing in the grand final pro, I'd be cheering for the Jack Jumpers. I get it. Us against the world mentality, but it's been a good series so far. Let's just hope it's nice and smooth for the old Sydney Kings, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I'm split on this, but obviously I want to see you win it. But I would have loved to see that crazy motherfucker Scott Ross win a championship, man. I couldn't even name one player on his team, and I don't give a fuck. Like, I want to see him win. He is a 80s wrestler if I've ever seen him. I want to see him rip his shirt off and just like yell at the crowd. But I mean, down 2-0, I don't think history's on his side. But what are you gonna do?
Awesome rumors, pro. He has a multi-year deal that I've heard some little rumblings behind the scenes. He might not be back. So
really,
yes, I have from some pretty good sources. There could be wrong, but there could be the potential for they're looking for a new coach. I know it's been a tough year for him. He's been away from his family. they haven't been able to get in for COVID, of course, so he hasn't seen him for a long, long time. And he's done a fantastic job, but yeah, I've just heard rumblings that could be the case. So we'll see. We'll watch this space and see if the old rogue Bogues got one right. But that's the rumblings behind the scenes. Now this game, Pro, we're going to talk Chase Buford again. He's did a naughty again, Pro.
Shocker.
So a questionable call, I think, on an 8-second call from the backcourt, and he loses it. Already had a technical foul. Was very, very lucky. There's a lot of Tasmania fans having a cry saying he should have been ejected. How did the referees missed it? But he kicked the stanchion. I mean the sponsorship sign things on the side of the court near the scorer's bench where the sponsor signs are, and they've got the electronic LED sponsor lights. He kicked it and broke it. So he broke one of the signs, and then the writing, like Hungry Jacks, ended up spelling Hungay Jacks. So
Shocker.
The referees did miss it, thankfully, because if they saw that, he would have been ejected earlier on that game. They missed it, but he's gonna have a bill, I think, for the signage repair, which might be pretty expensive for the LEDs these days. It's not as simple as just getting the local sign printer to print out a sign. Those LEDs are expensive. So, yeah, and then we're worried about him breaking his foot as well. So,
you think his dad could ship over a San Antonio House of Pizza sign they could sort of replace in exchange or no?
I think it's going to be a proper... He's in town, actually.
Nice.
RC and his wife are actually in town and supporting Chase Buford, which is great. Maybe I'll have to sit down with him and be like, hey, leave the kung fu stuff to the kids. But he's a passionate guy. Like I said, I don't condone his behaviour, as Chase would, after the fact, would say, yeah, I went a little stupid there. But he's passionate. You can't hold that back. So I know Tassie Jack Jumpers fans are still not too happy about that, but it was what it was. Sydney Game 3 is looking like it could be close to a sellout, Pro, which is huge in our game. We have an 18,000-seat arena, so we're probably one of the hardest arenas to sell out. So if we can get to 18,000 on a Wednesday night of all things, school night, which is always hard, it would be fantastic. Let's make sure that, if you're a Sydney sider, get to that game, support the Sydney Kings. It should be a fantastic atmosphere. So we'll watch that space, and hopefully it's 3-1 by the time we do. It's 3-0 by the time we do this podcast. Or 3-1. I'll take 3-1 as well, but 3-0 would be much obliged, Tassie. So please, be nice to us and let us get that third win. Useful or useless? I've got another pop quiz for you, Pro. This one should be fun.
Nice.
We're going to go through each team's most fined player, and you're going to try to guess who it is.
Okay.
All right, let's start with the Lakers. Now, this is, by the way, NBA Debates 1 on Instagram. I'm loving some of your posts. I'm stealing these from you guys, but I'm giving you the shout-outs. That's what we do. We cite our sources. They got some
Westbrook?
No. Now, footnote, it does include suspensions. That's part of the fine, right? So, a guy's contract could hinder that fine going up a lot, but yeah, it's not. It is LeBron James.
Okay.
300,000. He had a suspension, remember? 1 game suspension. He had an obscene gesture, ejection, tech. 300,000 for old LeBron. This one's pretty easy. Golden State.
Golden State. Most fined player. Steph Curry?
Are you being a dick?
No, Draymond Green. I was joking.
2 ejections, 15 techs, $72,000. Oh, and cursing at official, $72,000. Not too bad compared to LeBron because of the suspension. Phoenix Suns.
Chris Paul.
No, Devin Booker.
Ooh.
13 technical fouls, 37,000. You wouldn't have picked it. He's pretty mild-mannered for the most part. You wouldn't pick that. All right, your Sacramento Kings, Pro.
The whole team.
The owner.
Let me see.
I wouldn't have guessed this one. I'll give you a tip. He wasn't there the whole season.
Marvin Bagley.
No, good guess though, but he didn't play enough minutes, I don't think. Sabonis. He had a 1-game suspension, an ejection, and 3 techs for $135,000, if you don't mind. The LA Clippers.
Reggie Jackson.
No, good pick. Marcus Morris Sr. 2 ejections. 2 ejections, 8 techs for $24,000.
Nice.
This one you would never get, but if I give you the right clue, you could. But the New Orleans Pelicans.
Does it cut? Does Zion's weight clause count?
No.
Okay.
The Mountain Dew. No. I'll give you a clue. He was a teammate of mine at one point.
Ingram.
No. Didi Lozada.
Ah, fuck, no chance.
He was at the Sydney Kings. He was over there. 25-game suspension for violating the NBA's anti-drug program. 406,000. He's with Portland now, but Didi's a great fella. Brazilian, but I don't know what he was taking. Not good. All right, the Houston Rockets.
Porter Jr.
Good guess, but apparently they got rid of all the soup, so he had nothing to throw at officials. It was Christian Wood, 1-game suspension and 4 techs for 104,000.
Nice.
The Memphis Grizzlies.
Brooks.
Yes, good guess. 35,000.
Nice.
Ejection and 13 techs.
Sweet.
And now suspension that they haven't added on. So he continues to be their leader. Now this one, you're probably not going to get, I mean, you're a crony, so you might get it. The Dallas Mavericks.
Luka fucking Doncic.
No. Trey Burke, missed COVID testing window causing 4 missed games, 137,000.
137,000?
Yeah, for the 4, because he missed 4 games.
Oh,
so they must have fined him for the missed games. If you're, he's not on a big contract neither, dude. Like, you need to be at that COVID test. You might even do the ones that aren't just the mouth swab if you're on that minimum contract. I'm just saying, but a tough one to get. All right, the Spurs.
Chuck Londale.
Yeah, good sarcastic guess, but no, it was Murray at 28,000, throwing ball at officials' legs, ejection, and 3 technical fouls. The Minnesota Timberwolves.
Karl Anthony Towns.
No, Patrick Beverley. That was easy.
Oh, yeah,
should have got that one. Inappropriate language, fighting, 2 ejections and 13 techs for 89,000. The Portland Trailblazers.
Shit. They got like 2 original players from the beginning of the year.
I think he's still there.
A. Millard?
No, Yusuf Nurkic. Remember, he confronted a fan courtside, grabbed his cell phone and threw it in the stands.
Oh,
he had an ejection.
Good.
He had,
Fuck that little.
He had 6 techs. That guy's actually suing him, funnily enough, apparently. No, I think he's suing NBA and him because he said he didn't say that.
If I was his parents, I'd be suing Trojan for it not fucking working.
Yeah, but he claims he didn't say what Nurkic said he said. He was just booing him. So who knows? Anyway, 55,000 for Nurkic. The Denver Nuggets.
Jokic?
Yeah, Jokic, the MVP for them. 237,000, 1-game suspension, 3 ejections, and 12 techs. He's definitely a fiery fella. The Utah Jazz.
Gobert?
Yep, 31,000, 1 ejection, and 11 techs. OKC. Oh, geez, these guys have done well. It's only a $6,000. He's their leader. Wow, that's amazing.
Dortz.
No, Darius Baisley.
Oh, nice.
$6,000, 3 techs, that was it. Young team.
Wow.
Grayson Allen is, I should have said Milwaukee Bucks. Grayson Allen is Milwaukee Bucks. 1-game suspension, ejection, technical, obviously from the Caruso thing. Detroit Pistons, you should get this one if you think about it. Involve LeBron.
Oh, yeah. The big dad, the big strong guy. Yeah, Stewart, right.
57,000, 2-game suspension for that, and 6 techs. All right, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, I didn't realize I was going to do these, but this isn't a player.
Oh, Bickerstaff.
Yep.
Yeah, he fucking attacked some refs.
Criticism.
I mean, verbally, of course. Verbally.
Yeah, criticism of officials and ejection, $35,000 for the Cavs. The Chicago Bulls. Now, this one's an interesting one because I'll give you a clue. He wasn't there that long.
No, fuck. Vucevic?
No. Tristan Thompson.
Oh,
34,000. He wasn't there long at all, though. Making profane comments to official ejection and 5 techs. Good for you, Tristan. Indiana Pacers. Another guy who I don't think was there long.
Halliburton.
No, Jalen Smith. 26,000. Profane language to an official and 3 techs for him. Where's the last one here? All right. So, and this one is possibly the MVP of the league as far as fines, but the Philadelphia 76ers.
Joel Embiid.
Ben Simmons, bro. Come on, dude.
Oh, fuck.
53 missed games due to not cooperating with team. 1-game suspension. 19 million so far. Oh, yeah, 19 million to date.
I think Brooklyn should be fined $19,100,000 for fucking trading for him.
Another easy one, Brooklyn Nets.
Ben Simmons.
Kyrie Irving.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm half mentally challenged.
You are. That's okay, though. 36 missed games because of COVID. Two uses of inappropriate language, obscene gesture, 13 million for old Kyrie. The Knicks.
Nice. Randall?
Yeah, Randall, 67,000, 12 texts, 2 ejections, profane language. The Celtics.
Marcus Smart?
No, good guess though. You'd think it'd be him, but it was Tatum, 13 technicals, 37,000.
Yeah. He's a big complainer.
Toronto.
Van Vliet.
Yeah, actually. I didn't think he was...
Really?
Yeah, 5 technical.
I have no fucking
You were being
idea.
sarcastic too. You were picking another Steph Curry.
They're like the nicest fucking guy in the planet.
I know. 5 texts and obscene gesture. 25,000. It wasn't...
It's like picking Jalen Brunson for the fucking Mavericks. Crazy.
Yeah, only 25,000 though, so they didn't have a lot of hotheads on that team, but 5 texts and an obscene gesture. Atlanta Hawks.
What's his name? Collins.
No, Trae Young. 16 texts in contact with an official, 62,000. Charlotte.
What, he bite his ankles? The guy's 3 feet tall.
Charlotte Hornets.
Probably Ball, right?
Bridges, 6 texts, an ejection, throwing mouthpiece in a crowd, 64,000.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Miami Heat.
Butler.
No, it was Markieff Morris.
Oh, yeah,
he barely played.
Jokic,
He barely played that year because Jokic WWE'd him and he was out for fucking
the
eternity. 1 tech and 1 flagrant cost him 52,000. Ouch. Washington.
Kuzma for that obscene shit he wears every day in his wardrobe.
That's a fair take, but no, it's KCP, 25,000, just 10 texts straight. Orlando Magic is the last one, pro.
Anthony?
No, Robin Lopez, 27,000, 6 texts.
What the fuck did he do?
He barely played. 6 texts and fighting.
What did he?
I think he had that fight. Was it with Ibaka? That was with Washington. He had a fight with someone.
Did he skip COVID testing to go to fucking Splash Mountain in Orlando?
No, Disneyland. They love Disneyland, the Lopez brothers.
Disney World. That's it, Disney World.
Yeah. All right. That's the debate. So some fun stuff with the fines. Always interesting to see who the biggest hotheads are on each team. Useful or useless, the Suns went after Luka 50 times as a screen defender in Game 2. Of those 50 times, the Phoenix Suns scored 1.72 points per chance, pro. Useful or useless?
That's useful. He's not fucking Bruce Bowen by any stretch of the imagination.
Fair take. But yeah, just interesting that they went at him that much. And I think you got to do that. You got to try to make him, he's so valuable for him offensively that maybe you wear his legs down and that step back's not as fresh feeling in the fourth quarter, pro. So I like that they're trying to do that. But Dallas have adjusted. It is 2-2. So Luka is a good one. So we had a negative for Luka. Let's go positive. Luka is the all-time playoff leading scorer. What is it, 33.5 right now? Smaller sample size to MJ. MJ, the all-time leader. A real small sample size, but he's currently the all-time leader in playoff PPG, pro. Useful, useless?
I think it's useless. For now, it's useless because it's just way too small of a sample size compared to MJ's playoff appearances. But I think, look, he's going to be an iconic player. He's going to be one of the best players of all time, and he's done. But for now, I think it's useless because he's just been in the playoffs a few times. Besides this year, every year was a one round and out. So I think it's useless for now just because of the small sample size.
Yeah, I think it's useful though. Like he's doing the work. I mean, he hasn't been in deep runs. He hasn't been to finals yet, but I think he's going to be up there when it's all said and done. He turns it on in the playoffs. He has great regular seasons, but then the playoffs he goes up another switch, and he'll go as far as they take him. All right, last one. The Suns are 52-0 when leading after 3 quarters this season. Pro, useful, useless? Useful
is fucking pretty. It's pretty evident they're going to win a game if they're leading after 3.
It is very useful. They are tough when they're in the lead, and they have that veteran group now and that good mix where if they're in a game in the fourth, they're going to generally steer in their direction. But 52-0 is crazy. That's a crazy number. Not one loss this season when they're up after the third quarter, which is amazing. What do you have this week?
Well, I'm going to change it up, Bogues, because I thought Tatum was actually putting up more. I thought Tatum actually had a better statistical output in the playoffs.
First round he did.
That's true. You know what? Yeah, you're right. Jason Tatum has been the best player in the Eastern Conference playoffs for the remaining teams that are remaining in the playoffs. Fact or fake news?
Yeah, fake news. Just based on this series, and I think Giannis. Yeah. Giannis is the guy in the East, pro. You forgot about Giannis again, but yeah, fake news, that one.
Yeah. I'm I'll say fake news. I'll say Giannis is the same. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't think of Giannis. Not the very bright, as we said throughout the last 62 shows or so. All right, Luka Doncic has been the best player in the Western playoffs for the teams that are still available.
Yeah, I'm going to go fact on that one. Obviously, the Warriors doing their thing, but they're more of a balanced attack as far as one player leading their team. Luka Doncic is that guy. I would say even potentially the league. It'd be him and Giannis as of now, I think, are in that conversation. So I would pip Luka right now, just because I think he's having a phenomenal. We just said he's one of the all-time leading scorers in playoffs right now, and it's definitely fact.
Yeah, based on his age, he's the best player in the league, in my opinion. If you factor in everything, and in the playoffs, he's been ridiculous. I mean, even when he's not putting up ridiculous numbers, he just has a ridiculous impact in the game. So yeah, I would agree. Last but certainly not fucking least, Duncan Robinson will get in a game this series. $90 million and can't get into a fucking game, Bogues. Fact or fake news?
Well, he's been in a game, pro. He played 0.9 minutes. I think.
Oh, he did? Oh, my bad.
No, that doesn't count. That doesn't count. It was garbage. Last game, they just chucked him in there, but he hasn't played any vital minutes or important minutes. I can't believe this guy can't crack the rotation when they, because Jimmy's not the best 3-point shooter at times. Oladipo's streaky. They obviously have Hero. Sometimes you just need that feet set guy that can shoot it. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say in this series, I think they'll roll him out. I think he'll get a Corey Brewer cameo from the NBA Finals Pro that year where they put him in and it's like, who's this guy? He's not on our scouting report. And he has a game where it's 2 or 3 threes, I think later in the series. They're going to have to, because as of now, Philly are up, what are they up, 18 in the third. So it looks like they're going to even the series out as this podcast is finishing. So it'll be 2-2. They might need to throw him in there and get some more shooting out there, pro, because the Philly are shrinking the floor a lot. So I'll say fact, but geez, $90 million. I mean,
it's crazy. I mean, the guy's one of the best shooters in the league. Although he has had a really off year this year.
He went cold, didn't he?
Yeah, he's on my fantasy team.
Your fault.
Fucked me royally in fantasy. I had to cut him halfway through the year, and then nobody else picked him up, which is saying a lot. But yeah, he's had an off year. I mean, the guy was automatic, and he just, sometimes you have that off year, you got to recalibrate. But him and Kevin Huerter, same thing. Like, they signed these big deals, and I don't think Huerter signed a $90 million deal, but signed these big deals and just sort of struggled.
His regular season, he's 11 points a night in the regular season, and what is he? Basically 40% from the field, 37 from three. So not horrible, 2.9, 7.9.
Interesting, though.
Yeah, really interesting. Like, he can't get a sniff. I know he's bad defensively for him. They're not putting him there for defense, that's for sure. And he's going to get picked on in the pick and roll. Maybe who do you put him on? Tobias, James, Maxey? That's probably the problem, right? Like, who's he guarding out there?
I think he's guarding the assistant coach for Atlanta, and that's about it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the reason. But yeah, in fact, he'll get back. I think he'll get a sniff in the series at some point.
I think he should, but
at least the home game, put him on. Maybe late game, maybe late quarter. But the $90 million thing, give your agent a 10% on that commission. Jesus Christ, and not a bad guy by any means, but that's I don't know what Miami were thinking. Like, especially for feet set shooters, like, okay, he can come off pin downs and move a little bit more, JJ Redick-esque, but we always refer to a Tony Snell type or someone like that for a couple of mil a year. If you want a feet set knockdown that does nothing else, $90 million is a bit expensive. But who am I to say, pro?
Hey, Bogues, look, half the players in that league are robbing money, so might as well add one more to the list. Fuck it, right?
Hope he gets out there. Anyway, all right, that wraps up this episode. Good one. Give us your feedback. Let us know what you think of our crazy playoff picks and analysis, and let's hope I'm talking with a ring on my finger next week, bro. We'll see you all next week.
Folks, I'll catch you guys next week.